my questions, between my questions and your answers.
Ako isi secondanda bula nate dia moke wala e nyininkaro ke indema na jabi side do mandin rong pour e alla dia mo kana sele nyokan kana sor lalu fanalisa kana sor ab mobe sa faham ya moyle
That way we avoid overlap in our speeches.
Ako e bajala wo ba sabula le molus be fahamu alla kumul fanalite sella nyokan.
And also to allow for interpretation into the different local languages.
Alun ko nga fay nyamen kanna sor lalu bi janne menu be nyin kumo kanna sor kan ko tangulu ton na bankola kangulu to folu fanalisi la kumo kanna sori anate la kumo.
In our previous meetings, I have already warned you about the duty to tell the truth.
Ako allabem fololuto ay idandala nyinale ka foyon ko jande ni sita jang e nyanta yetto nyafo.
And I have already warned you that it is a criminal offense to lie to the commission.
Anda nyim fanan ko ndi male ko luwa balanta nyinale luwa tinyalom pour ka fania fo commission nyati limula jang.
We have very limited time today. We have about an hour to cover your testimonies, so I would also like to remind you to be very direct in the way you answer questions that are put to you.
Ako wato deteta bake katu kolu dukundita woto ning aye nyininka ni ba jabila mini kana siaje aye nyininka men na jabi drong kumo e sutiya.
The main focus of your testimony today will be your experience of the demonstrations at Birkamaba in the Lower Fuladu, CRR, Central River Division, as well as your personal victimization during the students' demonstrations there on the 11th day of April 2000.
Ala nyininkaro betilin na menna wole mukolu keta nyamin Birkama ba hanfo taliboli e balambaya men kije aning inate ite fangon nata mantoro men takikolu kono me yalon ko keta talibol law kolti nyin karotil tanning kilingo men keta April karotil tanning kilingo ti 2000 kono. Ya fahamu?
Ya fahamu.
Well understood.
Mr. Maneh, I hope you understand completely everything that I have just said.
Akwa mira fo ay membe foten ko ngam fo eten ya fahamu le kende ke bang?
Ya fahamu le kende ke.
Yes, I understand everything. Yes.
Very good. That was very loud and clear. Are you ready to proceed?
Ako silam fo pareta le bang tenteng abe nyinin ka ro damutala.
Ya mpareta.
I am quite ready.
What are your names?
Ako esisa ito kanga ni kontongo puru wairi abe safe kanne safe lalu sabe safe ay koy.
Nto mun NJIE MANNEH.
My name is NJIE MANNEH.
What is your address?
Ibesiri mintole saing.
Mbesiri Kombo Velengara.
I'm resident at Kombo Velengara.
And are you currently working?
Ako fonyin tembeng ibe do ko le bang?
No, mantra do kula.
No, I am not employed right now.
What is your date of birth and your current age?
Saying ite wuluta sanjumale andung ye sanjijelle soto katabula bila.
Ya wuluta April karotilimwani na Lulu 1984.
I was born on the 25th of April 1984.
Saruja CRR.
At a village called Saruja in the Central River region.
And what is your current age?
Sayendung woto ye sanjijelle soto.
Sayendembe sanjitansa ba sanjulu.
I have 35 years now.
And do you have a copy of your ID card?
Ako, fuela ID card abebule le bang ibadameng.
Ya nyana na ID card filtambulu motolo kono nya kankula bare maje bare sanya dole fanandunde bare ko next week in sitakamo.
My former ID card got lost in a vehicle. I even announced it over the radio, but I cannot see it up to now. But I have already gone to the immigration to apply for another one. They told me to go for it next week.
Mr. Maneh, can I just ask you not to turn away whilst you're answering the questions? You tend to turn away from the microphone. Please speak directly into the microphone so that we can hear you.
Ako ningi be jabiro kela ike dajen kendi microphone ye ako ba kela wala ka kendi la kumo dolu buka finti bake barbitu nibe diamula isia akata ye da tilindi microphone la isaje la kumo si finti ay senea. Ya faham?
Nya faham.
Yes, well understood.
I will also ask you to produce your ID card to the commission at a later date so that we can make an application to tender it into evidence.
Ako aba fule nyatonto niela ID card soto drong inyantana lale ka futandi nyin commission ma nyin pour nyin kamala inyanta dundi la kaytolu konole ani sede kaytolu men ya lonko obedendi ite fangola kollela.
Bismillah nyamoylo.
Yes, I understand very well.
We will need that as evidence of your age at the time of the demonstrations.
Mbe sula la wala nyine kama pour ka long wo demonstration olu be kala wato men isango be sanji jelle wotumo wole ba kendila nsula tawo ID card la pour sa safe nga ke sede kaytolu kono isaje nsalong.
Bismillah nyamoylo.
Yes, I understand.
Can you tell us where you attended primary and secondary schools?
Ako isa fono nye ye primary karango ke karambu njumale to anin secondary karango yake karambu njumale to.
Ya nya primary school nya follow Bundum primary school so not a transfer 1993 kata Birkamaba primary school.
Yo, I started my primary education at the Bundung primary school. Then I later transferred. Then I later transferred to the Brikamaba primary school.
Can you give us those dates, please? The dates that you were at Bundung primary school as well as Birkamaba.
Ako foisi alungulu fono nyele ya damuta sanjumale Bundung primary karambunguto aning inata sawun katabri kama ba primary karambunguto sanjumale.
Nya kumasi Bundung primary school 1991.
I started at the Bundung primary school in 1991.
Not a transfer to 1993 to Birkamaba primary school.
Then in 1993 I transferred to the Brikamaba primary school.
So Nata Birkamaba primary school complete 1997.
I completed the Brikamaba primary school in 1997.
Then Nata proceed Birkamaba secondary school academic year 97 to 98 kata grade 7.
Then I went to Brikamaba secondary school up to the year 1997.
Then Nata grade 9 complete year 2000.
Then I completed my grade 9 in the year 2000.
Then Nata grade 9 kata nya Amiteji senior secondary choose barbutung na student dembo session o Kenya nata futaje principal wa nyitandi nako ito ila address of futaje lon jay manete de school de place o de la in karambunto jang den be rivarang kaito de la yeta ya school sur da do yeta je so nata proceed kata na senior secondary school base.
Then I opted to go to Armitage Senior Secondary School, but when I went to Armitage Senior Secondary School, the principal there at that time told me that we cannot admit you in the school here because of you attended the students' demonstration. You cannot go. You cannot attend the school. Then that was the principal informed him that he will give him a referral paper to go. Then that was the time he gave me a referral paper. Then I went to the Ahmadiyya Senior Secondary School.
Then Beo Ahmadiyya Senior Secondary School inatam batandije bakes security personnel. So nata jebula kana pipeline comprehensive senior secondary school.
I was at the Nusrat Senior Secondary School, but every time the security people come to me, they are security personnel, they started harassing me at the school. Up to the time I can no longer go to that school, then I decided to transfer and come to the Pipeline Senior Secondary School.
Then Pipeline Senior Secondary School, that out of not board of an I returned back to the Brikamaba Otumo school on promote senior secondary school.
Then I had to leave Pipeline Senior Secondary School to return to Brikamaba. At that time, Brikamaba was upgraded to a senior secondary school. Then I went to Brikamaba Senior Secondary School to complete my schooling there.
Then I suppose Nyanta complete Brikamaba Senior Secondary School. Barabutung in a political dundije ntata for grade 12 pour faire mantuje sa foka examination ota so inata na school terminate then exam nyanta kila watu mumfaona wa interselo kono Burusibi police station.
When I went to the Brikamaba Senior Secondary School to complete my education there, well, what happened, they decided to bring in politics into my education. That's the time the harassment continued. Then, in fact, I was later arrested and brought back to the Burusibi police station, and I was locked in the cell. In fact, the day that I should sit to the exam, that day found me in the cell at the Brikamaba police station, at the Burusibi police station.
Mr. Manne, Mr. Manne, sorry to interrupt you.
Mbatu, council be nyini kakang. Yes, go ahead, council.
Mr. Manne, sorry, I have to interrupt you at this stage and just take you back for a few clarifications before we continue. You mentioned that you were denied entry into Armitage Senior Secondary School because of the demonstrations. What demonstrations are you referring to?
Iko Armitage la principal ko ite sonna yedung Armitage karambungo to ko katu tarta talibol law demonstration ko ako demonstration jumale moti
wolong Brikamaba la junior secondary school la demonstration throughout all over the country.
That was the demonstration which took place in many parts of the country. That was the students' demonstration. That's what he mentioned to me. Because of that demonstration, this is why he said he will not admit me into the school.
What is the name of the principal at the school at the time?
Ako for principal o membe o karambungoto tumo membalanta purwedu o karambungoto Amiteji. For ya tolon ne bang?
Ya nya atolon.
Yes, I know his name. Ato Fonyeng.
Kafael Hafna.
Well, they called him Mr. Hafna.
Do you remember his first name?
Ako fo ato follow hakilo sio mutale bang.
No nya alo nyina ko ka kuma nyina Mr. Hafna.
I forgot the first name, but I can only remember that people used to call him Mr. Hafna.
And was it Mr. Hafna who gave you this referral note to go to another school?
Ako fate Mr. Hafna fang kilingole yo kaito di la prieta karambundo to bang.
Te Hafna kabrain kumandal office then water nya class ro bidundala ura njuba ko nyetlo njay man Birkama banka ha ko nyoko den there's no place for you in this school here Birkama ko nyoko, so you are part and parcel of that student demonstration atlon di hete then anata kewdolo kumandije bar nyamo la ka fa Mr. Mendy.
Well, when I went to Amity School with my documents, he called me into his office. He was wearing glasses, but he took off his glasses, looked at me in my face. He told me, I've heard of you. You are Mr. NJIE MANNEH. We've heard that you took part in the students' demonstration, so we have no place for you in this school. But he called somebody else, called Mr. Mendy, who also came with another man into the office. So these people were present when he was telling me this in his office.
So Mr. Mendy Ulenatan Sambanata Rivaran Kairudina, any school in Sitano Jenetaje.
It was that Mr. Mendy who took me out of the office and went and wrote a referral paper for me. He told me, you can go to any other school who will accept you anywhere in the country. But this paper, you can go along with it, is a referral paper.
Do you know who this Mr. Mendy was?
Ako fo Mr. Mendy, fo yalo ne jumalombang.
So Mr. Mendy naman kewdun ti nene maje bari man jamfa alo man jamfa bake balo fanang kuliandinta fima.
Yes, Mr. Mendy, I have never seen him before that day, but he's a short man, black in complexion, and he is also somebody who has weight, and he's somebody really who I don't know.
Do you know if he had a position in the school at that moment?
Ako foya lo ne bang fo ay palaso le soto karambungu nyinto je wo tembo bang.
Yeah, after ndala movie nata murjinin kala kuola inata fanya ko is part and parcel of senior teachers in Amity Senior Secondary School.
After I left that place, later on I inquired about him, but what the information they gave me was that he is among the senior teachers who were teaching at the Amity Senior Secondary School at that time.
Can you tell us how it felt to be denied the right to attend the school of your choice?
Ako wodun ite yawr je nyaadile ayeke nyaadile ite fangola fita karambungu benna purita karanje yana balang purite ta karangola woto woketete nyaadile wotumo.
Anyway, I knew kuya bake.
It was
But nyajere ko to nyala mantra ko kono.
well, I was very sad and I was very angry, but what I realized is that there is no truth in whatever they said about me.
Did you meet the pass mark of Armitage Senior Secondary School?
Ako briye londi kontibo ke examination o nying mark menyante sambala o karamoto amite school foyo sotole numbang.
Yeah, because the student dembo session of Kela Keta Saumunda April 10 and 11 year 2000 was silo mapol makol porta bakela bari last results last markoning ntenata jere so bari ntende mu bota nyola birkama ba do bije ntela wodol ya fede bari je sotla.
Okay, what happened that year? The examination marks that year were very poor because of the demonstrations. A lot of the students had very poor marks. But our results came last. But among those results, the mark I got was even higher than the mark of some students who were admitted into that school at that time. I had better marks than those people.
And do you have a copy of your grade 9 WAS examination results?
Ako ila grade 9 was londi kontibo kaito fabe bulle bang.
Yeah, maybe misplaced the sign.
I have misplaced them now.
Okay. Can you please supply them to the commission if you find them at any point so that we can tender them as part of the record?
Ako misali kama nyatonto nitata o kaito luje ebe lafila puri na ati komisyon nyinto puru isio fanambula sede kaito lukono meni alonko ibe dundila. Ya faham?
Ya faham le mbasot no nira school into mbasot no.
Yes, I understand. I can even go back to the school and try to get a copy of it from the school. I think if I go there, I'll be able to get a copy.
That would be very helpful if you could.
Ako wabekela makoir baleti natara isi okeno.
You mentioned that you were given a referral letter. To which school was that?
Ako yanyi mfoko inata referral kaito dila wole mke samba karambundoto. Ay karambungule to foje itenya ntatala da membang.
No, among karambunto sefe kaito yubala.
No school was written on the paper.
And which school did you eventually go to?
Ako biringoto biribota otole inata ta karambunju maleto.
Kabrimbota ate Armitage wrong. De nata kombo jande ka Gambia high kaje sajaning Muslim high school kata Mindaw senior secondary school bari wol nata fonyol ko de la school blocked already fatale so illegal.
When I came, I first went to the Gambia High School, now the Gambia Senior Secondary School, and Mindaw plus some other secondary schools. But what they told me at all those schools was that at that time all the schools were blocked. They have students and they cannot add any more students to their student population in the schools.
So that minimum for stamo banta.
That's how I was roaming around trying to get a school for myself, going around until the first term ended.
Then
that's the time when my father called me.
Akonyako nanandi madole be na senior secondary school ko to malong.
He told me, I have another son at the Nazir Senior Secondary School. He's a brother to you.
Kafa Bambasane.
They called him Bambasane.
Then nata ne karaje unara fanyako itela in results bete abatala.
That's the time when I went to Nazir Senior Secondary School, but when Bamba checked my paper, he told me, you have very good results.
Can you tell us where Nasir Secondary School was located?
Ako tumo Nazir Secondary School abe mintole nungo tumo.
Nasir Senior Secondary School be Basele Mansajankunda.
That's the school located at Basse Mansajankunda.
So not a school kumasi.
That's how I enrolled in that school.
Mr. Manne, can you please repeat your question, please?
He
Your
said,
answer.
he said, ako ila jabiro men, ila banta jabiro men dila alafta say la alafta say wole kang.
Similar.
Kafo ifama le kumando ana mem fo ya nim men nata bula onoma. Birifa ye kumanda mune fo ye.
Mfama ha wale mfama nata kumande kafa nyeko nana ko ma dolo bijang Nasir Senior Secondary School.
That's the time when my father called me and told me that I have another son at the Naziri Senior Secondary School. You can go there.
Nasir Senior Secondary School. So the nya address of follow out school or nyaje so nya kaito indiala.
That's the time I went to the Naziri Senior Secondary School at Baseman Jankunda. The name he gave me, Bamba Maneh, I tried to locate the man until I saw him. Then I gave him that paper. After he looked at the referral paper and my examination results, then he told me, you have good results, and that's the time I was enrolled in that school.
So another time for you have very good mark.
He repeated the answer to me saying that you have very good marks.
Why not imana janjuna until kamul tajan munelon ko itela resources more than them.
The man told him that why didn't you come here earlier? Because we accepted people here whose marks are far below your mark.
Mr. Manne, can you tell us how long you stayed at Nasir Senior Secondary School, please?
Afonye ye wati jelle ke Nazir Senior Secondary Karambungoto.
Yeah, kabindaraje second term le start term moved mbotaje.
I went there and I attended the second term there, but just around the beginning of the third term, I had to leave there.
You already mentioned that you were harassed during your time at that school. Can you tell us the nature of the harassment and who harassed you?
Ako ayanyum foko karambungu nyintoje inate batandi jele hanfo wole ketaila jebulo daliloti. Jumanyo le batandi.
No, school to personally mam problems at school to. I
had no problems at the school itself.
Munna tambatandi security le natambatandi.
It was the security personnel who really harassed me.
Wala kera na modo te UDP meeting political rally sort of Basse.
In 2001, UDP held a political rally in Basse.
So on tabata the school le tembo je Nasiru mbota je ntata meeting la.
I was at the school, so I left the school going home. Then I went to attend the meeting.
So meeting ko ndata mo je ntata ila ideally kamun fo banko mole so ka interest wala because principal na londo kono.
Well, I went to attend the meeting to listen to what was being said, so that if it is something good, I will take the idea and add it among the ideas that I will depend on later.
Then from a meeting when
the meeting came to an end,
UDP meeting.
That's the time when Malafisanyang came to me and told me that you have decided to go and attend a UDP meeting. He told me that in this country, if you want to survive, you have to come to the APRC. If you don't want to survive,
then there's no way for you.
Then there's no way for you. Me personally, Malafi told him that he himself didn't see him, but somebody saw him there who took the information to Malafi. At that time, the answer I gave him was that whether you are in UDP or APRC, well, that's not my business. I'm just somebody. I'm not part of the UDP and I'm not part of the APRC, but I'm a student who is trying to gather knowledge.
So, I owe treatment Sifa more than 3 times.
Then he threatened me there more than times.
So, not a panic.
Then I became panicked.
So, not transfer.
Then I decided to transfer.
Pipeline Comprehensive.
At the time, I came to the Pipeline Comprehensive School.
So, nata fura pipeline comprehensive nata fanya bet ta tamule kono den e babu larje ne school close na openta next academic year you come.
I arrived there just when the third term was about to begin. The information they gave me there was, then we are about to start the third term, we cannot admit you, but you have to go and wait until when the next academic year, at the beginning of the year you come, then we will admit you.
Mr. Manneh, I would just like to interrupt you again there just to follow up on some of the questions that I have for you. You mentioned one man Lafisanyang who was part of the security forces.
Akoye man Lafisanyang tofo me ya lonko abe security forces ole kononu wala sojarul wala policeul.
Malafinying watolo bije nsaje paramilitary informal kono.
Malafi is somebody, sometimes I see him in paramilitary uniform.
Sometimes inside police uniform.
Sometimes I see him in police uniform.
Sometimes inside civil uniform.
Sometimes he will be in civilian clothes.
Sometimes yajamela program.
And I used to see him at meetings and programs organized by Yaya Jammeh.
Actually, security but it's part of security, but security.
So this is what confused me. I know that he is among the security forces, but I don't know to which branch he belonged.
Yeah, because Gambia,
because in the Gambia here, the law allows that
security personnel political.
Security personnel shouldn't be playing politics.
Sometimes political.
But Malafi is always playing politics. He was always playing politics. This confused me because I don't know to which branch of the security personnel he belonged to.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manneh. Can we just move on? You mentioned that as a result of the harassment that you suffered in Nasir Senior Secondary School, you had to move on to Pipeline Senior Secondary School. Is that correct?
Ako yenye foko saing biye batandiro menkela ala okumakangolo kabule no kang utumebe Naziri Senior Secondary School. Wole nata kendi ibotaje kana Pipeline Comprehensive School.
Yeah, not a Pipeline Comprehensive.
Yeah, that's what made me seek transfer to come to Pipeline Comprehensive School.
And Mr. Manneh, we will have time to come back to that. But first of all, I think let's go back to our main focus, which is the 11th April demonstrations in 2000. Can you tell us what happened on that day?
Akombe murule na ufanankanne nyatonto la karambungulu la saungu Kenya. Akobari nyintembeng alafta nga nyatiling talibo lao demonstration la menketa sangokono 2000 sangokono.
Bismillah.
Yes. Akoy safo no nyemune keta.
Yeah, April 10 and 11.
April 10th and 11th.
When I started grade 9.
I was in grade 9 by then.
Kibaro soto.
We had this news that
dunya kibaro fana moy.
And I had this information from another that one of that a student called Ibrahim Bari that he was manhandled by the fire service officers and they brutalized him, which resulted into his death. That's the reason that caused his death. But there was a students' union called GAMSU. Then they had that that they will have to organize some sort of a reconciliation with the government so that justice will take place about Ibrahim Bari's case.
So government compromisable.
And they even started the negotiation, but later on they said the government is not ready to compromise with them. And from that time on, the government was not serious about anything concerning Ibrahim Bari's case.
So
This is how things were going on, and the students were discussing among themselves. And she's called Binta Maneh. She came with a delegation of athletes to the Bakau Stadium. That's where she was raped. And they destroyed her youth. And it became an agenda for our school at Birkamaba. So the case of Ibrahim Bari and Binta Maneh, these two cases became our focus.
Please raise your voice, Mr. Maneh.
Akoyesi kango wulindi santo demanding.
And proceed, please.
Akoye tenteng, molem nyinti si diamu santo.
Yeah, okay, problem taja.
Okay, Tambi.
Binta Maneh la kuoto.
About Binta Maneh's case,
principal mu benna school oto.
The principal at our school at that time,
bafada mo Merkan Mendy.
Nyadi?
Merkan Mendy.
He is called Merkan Mendy.
At Merkan Mendy nying.
That Merkan Mendy,
he failed his responsibility.
He failed his responsibility. Amala doko kanyama. Afo. He didn't do what was supposed to be done by him.
Binta Maneh,
because Binta Maneh, she was attending business for the school. During that business for the school was the time she was raped. When they came back to Birkamaba,
principal I in silence.
The principal was very silent about the matter.
La family Binta Maneh la family.
Binta Maneh's family,
principal man kontan kunidan dila.
He didn't show anything to the family that will convince the family.
Bintala bo Birkamba because ya commanded ya 5 commanded nan Kombojang.
Then later on, Binta was called to come to Kombo here
investigate.
So that the matter will be investigated. In that going and coming,
ala family faunaka transport bondi, anala family faunaka.
And all those trips from Birkamaba to Kombo, Binta was paying her own. Binta's family were paying their transport fares to come and go.
So, but through the discussion.
In the discussion at the school itself there, I was not there in person. But the person or the people who were there, I have a friend there called Sabali. It was Sabali who was giving me the information of things going on there, because I don't have the time to inquire things about what was going on there. Because at that time, the moment we close from school, I just go home.
Mr. Maneh, sorry to interrupt you again. I would just like to said, you mentioned Binta Maneh. What grade was she in, and what was her age at the time?
Ako ye Binta Maneh la kumo memfateng. Alafta kodo lusenendi la ala kodo. Ako utumo Binta Maneh be grade jumale to aning awulu sango be sanji jelleto.
Utumo Binta Maneh be grade 7.
Utumo Binta was attending grade 7. At that time, Binta was attending grade 7.
So utumo asio samuta maybe abetara sanji tanning kabonan kankata lulu kandal.
At that time, if I can recall properly, she will either be 14 years or 15 years old.
So, Otembo Abolto.
As the time things happened.
You also mentioned, Mr. Maneh, my apologies. You also mentioned your school, Birkamaba Senior Secondary School. What kind of school was it? Was it a private school or a government school?
Akoye wakarambu memfang la kumofonya Birkamaba. Mansakunda la karambungolom bankota fodung jemu afaye karambungoleti mole tamu jeti wala kafole tamu jeti.
Mansakunda la karambungolom bankota.
It was a government school.
I just wanted to note the fact that you blamed the principal of the school for what happened to, for not reacting properly to what happened to Binta. I just wanted to ask, considering the fact that it was a government school and the principal was a government employee, why did you blame the principal for what happened?
Ako niaja je mamandi wairi karambungu mansakunda karambungulti adum principalo nying yemen tofo atefana mansakunda le yata adu kola bitun sila yekumo memfota munta tumiro lata karambundu sut nyato nyin ko nyin nekang principalo nying so ako wala na alafta lo na be nyin karo kala me ya kendi ya tumi.
Okay. Then mbeo kono je
hani ako me ya kendi karamundo moro nyin tumi ya dalilo nyin akawole nyin ka karamundo moro nyin principalo nyin membe karamundo je ha yalo ko amala do ko ka nyama ha ko akawole nyin ka
yeah because muna na fota do ko la wara mala do ko ka nyama.
The reason I said that he didn't do his job properly
because aman take care because Binta na finta school kono wato.
The principal didn't do anything to help Binta. How people look at her and fellow students at the school there. According to witnesses, when Binta herself is standing, people discuss her up to the point of pointing her, and she herself sees those people discussing and pointing at her.
So, principal
if the principal had done things properly,
Binta
shouldn't be in the school like that, people pointing and discussing about her. So Binta became so ashamed that she had to leave that school.
But as a responsible person, as a principal,
the head of the school being the principal and a responsible person,
chance in education.
I think he should have encouraged Binta and try to do other measures which will help Binta to overcome the shame that made her leave the school.
Because
at that time, grade 7,
Binta ila class exam
in their class, when examinations come, if Binta didn't take first, she will be she will take the second position. Then for somebody like that just to come and leave the school like that, the principal didn't do anything to encourage her to continue her schooling.
Then he failed.
Thank you, Mr. Manne. Yes, we note that point. You've already mentioned it. And as a result of these two incidents with Ibrahim Barry and Binta Manne, what happened next at Birkamaba?
Akobitong Binta Manne ni Ibrahim Barry la kuala tate nyaming. Woya sabu mune nata ke Birkamaba kara mutuje.
Yeah.
That's what caused the reason for the demonstration at the Birkamaba school.
Student April 11th.
Which took place there on the 11th of April.
Then Kombol for a moment on the 10th.
When the demonstrations took place in the Combo here on the 10th, we had it on the radio. We had it also, people made telephone calls. But there was already there were people at the school there, students. At that time, those students were discussing with the main student body called GAMSU, but I was not aware of that.
Student demonstration with a peace.
So that we also will organize a peaceful demonstration.
But
I was not also part of the discussion. It was Sabali who was reporting matters to me.
This
is how the trouble started.
Please tell us who Sabali was. What is his first name and who was he?
Akoyo ya fonyen jumalom Sabaliti atofolo mumuneti katu Sabali mu kontongoleti.
Sabali ka fole Usman Sabali.
His full name is Usman Sabali.
Usman Sabali nyimfonye ko.
It was Usman Sabali who told me that.
Akonye Malik Jallo.
He said Malik Jallo.
Malik Jallo na assistant head boy.
That Malik Jallo was the assistant head boy at the school at that time.
At the same time, Atelong Gamsula regional coordinator.
That same Malik Jallo was the Gamsu regional coordinator
in CRR. Head boy Buffalo Hamid Sow.
The head boy was Hamadi Sow.
Then you never negotiation in warrant discussion about in Gamsu.
These people were the people discussing with the main student body called Gamsu.
But Tenelu.
Then on a Monday,
the
day that the demonstrations took place in Kombo here, we went to school.
The principal no school.
Then the principal told us that this day there will be no school.
So inside that wrong.
We went home. I went to take care of our cattle. My father has cattle. When I close from school, I don't waste time at home. I had to go and herd the cattle. I have to go and take care of the cattle in the bush. During the daytime, then in the daytime, Usman came to our home. He found my father there and asked my father, I'm looking for NJIE. My father told him that NJIE has gone with the cattle into the bush. Then my father gave him the direction usually where we take the cattle into the bush, and he found me in the bush. When he came to me in the bush, after we greeted each other, he told me that I attached somebody to the principal. That's the person who gave me the information now that, right now that. And he was standing there when the principal called some soldiers from Kudang camp and informed him that this Monday, today, some soldiers will come to the school. During that discussion, he told me, the person who raped Bintamane, do you know him? I said, no, I don't know him. He told me, the person is here. I said, well, that's puzzling because the rape took place in Kombo. He laughed. And that's the time he told me that the police officer who raped Bintamane is at the Brikambamba police station right now. I said to him, how can that be possible? He said the policeman decided to follow Binta up to Kombo. And he told me that this policeman was following Binta, trying to get Binta from a long time in Brikambamba here, but Binta has been refusing him. So when he heard that the school is going for the athletics competition in Bagao, and he heard that Binta is also part of the delegation going to take part in that athletics, this is why the man quickly organized his own trip to go to Kombo, and he is the very man who decided to go and rape Binta. Then that's the time I told Sabali, but this information is really doubtful. I asked him, do you know the person? Who is this person? Then that's the time he told me that I will give you the name after the student demonstration.
But this moment,
He said, but at this present moment, I cannot tell you. I begged him, I pleaded with him, I appealed to him, but he refused. I said, okay, no problem.
So then,
Then that's the time when he decided to go home. He said he wanted to go to Brikama, but I'll cancel that trip. I will go home back to Kerawan.
Because
The person I attached to the principal to study his movements, that's the person who told me that the principal called soldiers from the Kudang camp in my presence. So before the soldiers will come here and find me here, I want to leave this vicinity.
Mr. Manne, I would just like to follow up on that. You mentioned that the principal knew about the demonstrations and hence called the soldiers from Kundang. Did Usman Sabali tell you how the principal knew about the students' demonstrations?
Ako nyum foko Usman Sabali ko principal o nyum bota demonstration o nyum kalamale ando atele sojarolu ko kumandi kabona Kudang. So ako saying wo ko keta nyadile pour hanfo principal nying ay demonstration o kunya mo nyadile.
Yeah, because kabirin kombo yake.
Because when the demonstrations took place here in Kombo, link with Gamsu, this main student body.
Possible mobe jela moye information of the principal of Kafaiko. These people if an plan can.
Possibly among those people was somebody who informed the principal that these students here in the school are also going to organize a demonstration here.
I suspect alone alone.
I don't know how he knew that or suspected that. Maybe that's the way he got the information.
Then
Sabali went home.
So in the
evening, when I brought back the cattle to the cattle herd, when I was tying up the cattle at their place, that's the time when my father arrived at the cattle herd's location. He asked me, the young man who came here to inquire about you, do you know him? I said, yes, I know him. He told me, do you know him? Where is he from? Then I told my father that I know him. We are attending the same school. He's from Kerawan, and he is my friend. Then my father told me,
40 days.
40 days. He will not leave for 40 days. I asked my father, why did you say that? Well, what I can recognize about his demeanor, his appearance, I read something in his appearance which told me that he's somebody who is going to be short-lived. Then I told my father that that's something wonderful. How did you know that? He laughed and looked at me, and then he left. He did it without telling me anything else.
So around 8 to 8:30.
Then around 8 to 8:30, a teacher called me.
Mr. NJIE.
One Mr. NJIE. He asked me, where are you? I said, I am at home. He told me, don't sleep in your home tonight. I asked him what is happening. And they have been given authority to arrest students.
Mr. Manne, I will have to interrupt you again. At this point, when you received this phone call from Mr. NJIE, was a student demonstration taking place at that time?
Ako birinyi Mr. NJIE be kumandi la telefono to fo tembo talibo law demonstration abe kekan ne bang?
No, abe nkola watu muna. 8 to 8:30.
He said that Mr. NJIE called him around 8 to 8:30 in the evening. That happened on that Monday, the day the demonstrations took place in Kombo here.
Was that the 10th of April 2000?
Yes, that was the 10th of April on that Monday. And it was in the evening of that 10th day of April from 8 towards 8:30 in the evening. When he gave me this information,
Ndara napabia.
I went to my dad's house. I asked him to give me my key. Me also, I went to prepare myself in my house spiritually. Then I did what I'm supposed to do. I went to spend the night at Brikamaba. On the following day, 7 o'clock in the morning, we went to the school. When I arrived at the school, we cannot go into the school compound. By that time, the soldiers had already surrounded the school. Some were standing at the main gate of the school. They were having rifles with them. Some went into the school and climbed up the trees inside the school compound. Some were even standing on top of the school fence behind the school. And behind the fence, on the ground, some soldiers were standing there also. And they went to the principal's quarters and secured that place also.
Mr. Mannet, can I just interrupt again? This was on the 11th day of April 2000, is that correct? But in essence, you have already mentioned that the soldiers were at the school on the 10th day of April when the student demonstrations happened in the Combos. Is that also correct?
Ako fo aketa tenne banko tenne lungulem sojarolu nata je kara mugunyin to je bang fotalato ko yafunu nyaming.
Ya sojarolu nata je wo fonko lo tenne lung suto aboko sabale yafa nyaming.
Then the soldiers came there on Monday at night, the evening that Sabali gave me the information.
Yo aboko Mr. NJIE fana nkola ko nyifutatale.
And that was the time when Mr. NJIE later called me and told me that the soldiers had already arrived.
Then bundala.
Then the people I found at the gate, there was somebody who was leading them. There were some people standing behind him.
So I
asked them, what is happening here?
We are called by your principal.
Then that's the time that man replied to me and told me that your principal called us to come here. We are just here to maintain peace and stability here. Then I told him, well, you came here to maintain peace and stability. You are here with guns. You've occupied every place. Soldiers climbing up the trees, standing on the fence. What's happening?
Yeah. So another for
Then that's the time he told me, you cannot go into the school like that.
Mr. Maneh, can you please look at me when you're answering questions rather than communicating with the interpreter?
Ako alaftale nibe jabirola hanime kungo yelamandi inya lo itulukang aytemembe te nyinin kakang alaftale alinyada lukar nyoje nibe jabiro kela wole be atefana makoela.
We are having a conversation, me and you, not you and the interpreter.
Itening kana surla lumantara diamukang inatele be diamukang inyante nyatili na telela.
I'm sorry I cannot speak Mandinka.
Ako se haketude ama Mandinka kango moyi.
But nonetheless we are having a conversation.
Ako bari unyonye nding atele be diamukang atele be kachakang.
Problem
Please proceed.
No problem. Ako isi tenteng.
So butu yaje.
That's how things happened.
Their
leader who was standing at the gate there, he insulted a very nasty insult there. When he insulted, Sabali also became angry. Sabali told us, then let's leave this vicinity. But already, Some students made these white cloths. They wrote some things on those white cloths. What was written on those cloths?
We need justice for Ibrahim Bari.
What was written on those cloths was that we need justice for Ibrahim Bari and Binta Manneh.
Before you move on, Mr. Manneh, are you referring
Usman Sabali Lemabang? Yes, it's Usman Sabali.
You also mentioned that on the 10th day of April, some students were going to be arrested. Did that happen?
Yeah, yeah, because now Ben Vlad move
at that meeting place, before we leave that meeting place,
MANNEH head boy
I didn't see the head boy there.
MANNEH assistant head boy
I didn't see the assistant head boy there. But how I was at the school there, if I have nothing to do with you, I always keep away from you. And I'm somebody who likes to keep to myself. But before Sabali left, he told me, he told me some students were arrested at night.
It's more than 50 students.
And he told me that more than 50 students were arrested last night.
But when I
was standing at the school gate there and I looked around in the crowd,
the
people I thought about were the head boy and his assistant.
Then
when I looked in the crowd, I didn't see these two people.
So believe that
then that's why I believe that, well, it's true, they might have been arrested. Then Usman, that's the time he later told me that they've arrested a lot of students.
From they are not That's
the time when I had this conversation with this soldier. And that's the time when he made that nasty insult. Sabali became angry. Sabali told us to leave this vicinity. Let's leave here for our peaceful demonstration. But at that time, there were some students.
We need justice for Ibrahim Bara and Binta Manneh.
They've already prepared some banners with white cloths, and the writing on those banners were that we need justice for Ibrahim Bari and Binta Manneh.
Mr. Manneh, before we proceed, you mentioned that the organizers of the demonstrations were arrested, or you suspected that they were arrested. Is that correct?
Ako janing albetente na yinyum foko. Nying demonstration o menu ba ako kurukuru kang ya wolle muta fodung sobita menu la ya wolle muta wonya ko to nyalo muti bang
ya dolu muta je wolda man tarje.
Yes, some people were arrested, and even some of those arrested were not even part of the demonstration.
Can you tell us why you were not arrested, since you were also part of those who were demonstrations happened? You mentioned that certain students were arrested. So my question is, why were you not arrested at that stage?
Because la secret location of
the reason why I was not arrested is because of two reasons. First of all, I went to sleep at a different place from my normal place, and secondly, I also made some preparations for not to be arrested.
What were those preparations?
Because I did some spiritual things. Because the jujus I took were very powerful.
So later 100%.
Then I believe 100% that night they will not be able to arrest me.
Because
that's what my father told me. He said, if you are arrested,
dunia banna bi.
then the world will end today.
Banni dunia te banna bi.
But if the world will not end today,
Itete mutala.
they will not arrest you today.
So mfamala kumodu na mu fanyenta kala wala.
And on that very powerful note, can we take a break? Thank you, Mr. Witness. Hand over to you, Mr. Commissioner. Chairman, I apologize, sorry. I'm being affected by this very powerful testimony.
Thank you very much indeed, Council. Those are very powerful jujus or medicines that you have in that part of CRR. Anyway, we'll take a 30-minute break, come back at 12 noon.
Sedo akoila safulu chairman koila safulu sembo warta baga imsitam da handingula fona murunna.